My name is Cynthia Wachowiak. Everybody calls me Cindy. I am 56 years old. I've been married to my husband Peter for 35 years. My daughter is Cassandra. She's 25, and she has 3 children, Aiden, Alex, and Genevieve, ranging from 6 to 2. Jacob, my son, he's right now in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and he's training to work in a disaster relief projects. Since I was 17 years old, I had been diagnosed with having lupus erythematosus. Lupus is an autoimmune disease, meaning that it attacks my own body cells and tissues. And in one way or another, it affected me all throughout my body. I was always sick. You know, when I was 13, I had appendicitis, went through that, and I ended up having ruptured. It was just full of problems there. And then I went and had a tonsillectomy, and I had problems with that, and it was just always an infection, always something. Lupus is a form or in a family of arthritis, and my dad had it real bad, and the whole family had it real bad, and it was real hard on my dad when they found out I had lupus. In 1984, the lupus had attacked my kidneys, both of them, and I was put in peritoneal dialysis for 10 months. First transplant was my brother Jim, and he was the only one that had been identical match. And they said when I went through the operating room, the kidney was kicking in before they even closed me up. I don't think I ever felt like that before, you know, feeling where you didn't have something hanging on you all the time, because I was always sick. Lupus didn't seem to be bothering me at all, and so those 19.5 years were really fairly normal. And then in 2003, my transplant was failing me. I was put on hemodialysis and went to the hospital 3 times a week. That October, my husband lost his job after 34 years in a paper mill, and I started getting a lot worse. I was getting bad headaches, and I felt cold all the time, and my blood pressures were going high, and they just couldn't control that.
Everything was just piling on top of each other, and it was getting so frustrating, especially working with these doctors when you couldn't get answers, and it was rough. It was rough. It really was.
My husband decided to take me to Madison University Hospital. When he took me to the hospital, then he returned home, and I got worse while he was gone, and he called a good friend of ours, Lisa, and she lived in the area.
I'm Lisa McKay, and I'm 51 years old, been married for 23 years old, have 2 sons, Ian, who's 19, and Mitchell, who's 16. I used to live in Stevens Point, and that's where I met my friend Cindy. I was dating her brother. The first time I met her, I was at her hobby farm and went for a horseback ride and got thrown from her horse, and she was worried but laughed, and we had a good laugh over it, and became close friends. Her husband took her to the UW-Madison, to the hospital. He called me that day to tell me that she was there in case I wanted to visit, and I called, and the nurse told me that I should come right away, that she was having some seizures. So I went to visit her, and she did not even recognize me at the time.
Lisa was so close, so it was so easy just to say, give her a call, and could you run over to her until I get there, and she would drop whatever she was doing and proceed to Cindy's side.
So Lisa had been there with me at that time, helping me out while Peter was gone, and he returned and found me in a bad shape where they didn't know what to do with me.
Shortly after that, a few weeks later, she went into a coma. We were on vacation in Colorado at the time, and I had gotten a call from Peter saying that she had gone into a coma and that they didn't know what was happening.
The odds were against her for sure, and you know, would have never ever thought that she would have rebounded so great. You know, as a friend, a bystander, it's extremely hard to watch someone going through something like that.
The doctor told my husband that he just didn't know if I should be taking me off of all life support, and he and my son decided that they wouldn't do that, and so Gradually, I come out of the coma and then went into ICU. Couldn't talk because I had a trach in my throat. I couldn't really walk. I couldn't get out of bed or anything. So I had to learn all this stuff over again. I was like tied up. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't say anything because I had a trach in my throat, and I was physically bound in a way.
She had a very difficult time. Naturally, couldn't talk. Couldn't write worth a darn at first. We tried to get her to communicate by writing, and it was like looking at a one-year-old scribbling with a crayon. And that took a long time for her to accomplish. She come a long way, a long way.
Well, after 138 days now in the hospital, I finally got to go home. Told myself that I was going to make it work. I'm going to really get well again, and just trusted God for my help. My son always had the faith that I was going to be okay. They never gave up on me. Following year, I was still on dialysis at home here now, not in the hospital. I was home, and I was anxious about getting this transplant in. And they did a lot of testing with friends and family, and they didn't get to be the right match for me.
We were very hopeful that you know, there would be a match, and it was very disappointing as time went on because no one was matching. My daughter even was one that was being tested, and she was coming out to be the closest match yet, and then they found that she had kidney stones. They said, you know, we would be using the other kidney, and that would leave her too vulnerable to lose the other kidney if she still had more stones and stuff. So she was real disappointed because she thought, you know, she was going to be the one. But then, you know, when it all came through that Lisa was the match after she had been rejected and, you know, nothing was working out, it was just, you just knew it was a God thing, you know, that God had his hand in it all the time.
After she got out, the doctors told her that there's a new technique called plasmapheresis that she could ask her donors to use. So after she told me this, I went and got retested, my blood, to see if I'd be her donor. And it ended up that 3 of her friends and family were potential matches for a donor. And the other 2 donors had some type of physical problem that didn't allow them to be her donor, and after my testing, I was the only one that was a match.
One time she said, I always knew in my heart that I was going to be your donor, even before I got tested. And sure enough, I did receive my new kidney from Lisa on November 9th, 2005. I still had a long road ahead of me, some issues from back then when I was hospitalized in 2004. I was still hanging on to this day, but I really believe that God was in this whole thing because to get that second chance again, I'm very grateful to be here.